right, we will call this meeting to order. Today is Thursday, September 22nd, 2022. It is 5:30 p.m. This is the Waseca School District's Board of Education September meeting. And we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. 5 of us, so good. Can I get a motion then to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. I'd like to take this time to recognize visitors. Thank you all for being here. I assume none of you wanted to speak during the public comment section? That's fine. And Caitlin, I assume we did not receive any emails. Thank you. All right, for those of you watching at home, please feel free to come in person if you have something that you would like to speak to, particularly if it's on our agenda, or you can send an email to wasecadistrict@gmail.com. All right, moving on then to payment of claims. Director Demmel.
Yes, I would like to make a recommendation for payment of claims in the amount of accounts payable, $1,753,931.78, which does not include August dental, and payroll in the amount of $874,287.78.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion for tonight's consent agenda?
I'll make a motion that we approve tonight's consent agenda.
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? All right. Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. All right, moving on then to our information items, and we'll begin with the superintendent report from Mr. Hudspeth.
Well, good evening, and it's so nice to be here in our first regular meeting of September and what feels like a back to normal school year in a lot of ways, so that's kind of exciting. As we talked about at our workshop in September, the start of the school year brought with a lot of energy, a lot of positive feelings and a lot of smiles, and I think overall over the last few weeks as we've gotten settled into our rhythm, we truly have felt like this is a school year as what we expect. So we've got some bugs to work out and we always have some things to work through, but very positive what we started off here. So tonight I just want to highlight 2 key items. One is just the work we're doing on a strategic plan right now. We are in a kind of an exciting place in the process right now. We had an opportunity to look at last year's vision card and see where the results were for both student achievement and all of our operational areas. And right now we're using that information to revise our operational plan for the 2022-23 school year so we can develop the 22-23 vision card as we see fit. One thing I was sharing yesterday with the evaluation committee is that the principals and directors have really, I'm so pleased and so just excited about the progress they're making as kind of embracing this operational plan, embracing these vision cards as a way to measure our progress. And so it's taking a little longer than I thought to kind of work this new operational plan together, but at the same time, it's because we're really thinking about the emerging influences that are pushing on us as a system, thinking about what our students need to be accomplishing, to be prepared for life, what the correlation is between some of these standardized test scores that we take, and what does that mean for real life, or what does it not mean for real life, and some of those things that we want to make sure we're sharing with our students. So I am looking forward to, at the October work session, being able to share with you the draft of the next vision card, but we are making progress. I did not want to rush to a completion when we're on the, I think we're really on the edge of something pretty great here in terms of setting ourselves up for success and holding ourselves accountable. In the areas of student achievement for our strategic plan, obviously fall assessments are happening right now, working with goal setting. All of our principals and directors are working with their staff right now to create their goals for this next school year. Early in October, I'll be meeting with each of them as their first part of their evaluation cycle as they set their goals for the year based on what we're finding out in terms of what we need to continue to work on. In the area of workforce, we still have some positions that we're working to fill. Nothing that's particularly sitting for long periods of time, with the exception of a behavior intervention position here at Central in the ALC. So if we have candidates that anybody knows for that position, that'd be exciting to hear from them. But otherwise we're continuing to work through all of the things we need to do to provide services for kids through workforce. So kudos to Elizabeth and the principals and the hiring team as they have done a great job to really recruit and have some, I heard it commented at the principal meeting on Monday, the hires this year are exceptional.
Good.
And so we've got some strong new teachers joining our district and all staff members in all areas. Pretty exciting to see. Community engagement has been an emphasis for us this fall. The last time we got a chance to get together, you saw the communication plan from the superintendent's office, and all of the departments and buildings have also done that. That really begins to get into motion here in the next couple of weeks. Tomorrow is our first coffee with the superintendent. So if anyone wants to come have coffee with me at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning at McDonald's, please come out and do that. The schedule is on our webpage and is on our Facebook and social media Facebook pages for our next spots too. We also recognize that a weekday morning might not be the best for everyone, and so we're just working to finalize the schedule on some Saturdays this fall as well. So we'll be doing some Saturday mornings as well for those who have to be otherwise either at work or some other options on a weekday morning. We want to make sure we have access to everybody as best we can for that. Through that process also, I just met with the facility committee and shared some of the information we'll be talking about here in the next few weeks as far as what's happening in our buildings. Colin Green had a chance to share what was happening over the summer and some of the projects we're working on, and all of that will be part of some of our community plans, communication plans here for this fall. I also want to, before I move to calendars, I do just want to make sure that I want to honor and give a moment to some of the regional things that are happening from a safety and security standpoint. I think it's important to recognize that the hoax that's going on right now nationwide that the FBI is looking at with some of these calls making threats to schools. We're very fortunate here in Waseca that we have not received any of those calls. We've not been part of any of that, but we stand ready and aware and vigilant to make sure we keep our students and staff safe. And our buildings are, as they always have been, secure. They're all single entry sites, so they're locked during the day and you have to buzz your way to get in. That's nothing new, and we're not necessarily having to change anything because we are secure. But I think it just bears repeating for the board, for the community, for everybody to hear that even though we were not impacted by the situation that happened yesterday that was all over the media, it didn't mean that we weren't aware of it, and we're prepared. We don't need to cause any concern, well, there isn't any, but we're ready just the same for that. So, any questions on any of that before I move to calendars? Okay. Linked in your agenda here, when you have a chance to look at your packet, either later on or during our conversation here, we did send out some information earlier in the fall about the proposed 2023-24 and 24-25 school calendars, requesting some feedback from both staff and our community. The most significant difference between the two calendars was a spring break versus not having a spring break. We did get some feedback, although I wonder about the timing of it as coming into August when people were getting a lot of things from school. We got about 70 responses back between staff and students. Just over half of them, it was about nearly 50-50, but a little bit more, over half commented on a spring break would be nice. However, almost all of them came with a caveat of, but I don't want to go that far into June. And so where else could we start earlier? Could we do something different? And so there wasn't any pressing majority either way for the calendar to change what we're doing currently in concept. And so what I'd like to propose this evening, or at least share with the board, is I would like to propose the calendars that do not have a spring break but have the regularly scheduled 3-day weekends and things like that in there. We're not going to take any action on them though now, because I think we can get more feedback by now sharing this is our proposal. placing those on our website with a spot for people to give us feedback, for the board to consider it as your conversations, and then we would bring those for action or amendment in October. We have some time. We want to have these in place by the end of the calendar year, so activities and people can plan for that next school year. So we have some time. But I think that giving the two options, as we found with a lot of our things, our facilities, other things, is we end up just splitting people's opinion. And so I want to just share, this is the option I'm proposing, and then we'll see what people's feedback is from there, and we'll make changes. There was some specific feedback about MLK Day, about having some dangling Mondays here and there, and so we'll continue to see if that is feedback that we gather in the next option, and then we'll see if we're going to change those proposals or not. But right now, I just wanted to share with the board that the feedback was gathered. There wasn't a lot of it, but again, I wonder if that was the timing of August back to school time. So I don't want to rush to say that's all the feedback we're going to get. I think we can gather some more over the next few weeks here. And then in October, be prepared to make a better decision.
So you're going to put the actual calendar proposals, or so people can see the actual dates that we're talking about?
Yes, actual
Okay.
dates. It'll be on our website. I'll send it out in a parent message and through social media. Again, and we'll have the opportunity to gather some feedback that way as
And
well.
how the students are reached out, is it school,
In terms of,
social? Yeah, how do
to
they
get
know
their
that
feedback?
they can do this survey?
we will get that out to them in school as well. Yeah, good question. Yeah. And that was probably a segment that was missed given the August send-out time, so that's a good idea.
Because, yeah, you had it on the website, and it was shared that it was on the website. But I think having the actual calendars and looking at the dates, because I can go either way on the spring break, but when I looked at your actual calendars, I'm like, we're not that far into June, so part of me was like, it wasn't. But, so I'd be curious if people see the actual dates, if you might get a different take, so, or a different response, but,
Right,
yeah.
exactly right, and I think that's exactly right. So we'll be
Yeah.
able to get those ideas and share with that, because I think that it was a little bit unintentionally, it was a little bit cumbersome to click into the folder and click on the different calendars to look at. So we'll be a little bit more direct in that, but there's no reason to rush through it. We'll get some more feedback.
I mean, what would be the option if we go sooner in August, 1 week? Would that account to have a break for a spring break and still finish as a normal time in June? Or-
Well, we could do that. The state statute says that you can't start till after Labor Day unless you have more than $400,000 in projects to do, which we do on any given year. Our LTFM is more than that. And so some districts do choose to kind of use that as an every year we can start when we want kind of model. It's intended to be if you've got a big project. But yes, that would be the option. Basically would be to start sooner if we still wanted to end at the same time and have a spring break.
I think that's interesting because one of our policies that we're reviewing tonight is the start of the school year. And when I read that policy, yes, it gives that caveat you could start earlier, but I read that policy as pretty firmly, we start after Labor Day is when I read it, but.
Yeah, and that's per
Yeah.
statute.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is just a speculation. I think when that statute was written, $400,000 meant a lot more than it does now.
No.
And so I think the idea was you only can do that if you have a really big project. Now what you're seeing is $400,000 doesn't get you very far in facilities.
Sure.
And so almost any district mid-size or higher would have that much in projects. And so some districts are taking advantage of that to start earlier, which we have not had conversation about. I have not had conversation about that, but I'm not opposed to the conversation if that's what the board would like to consider. But the policy is based on statute, and so that's where
Right.
with the
No.
policy committee, we talked to that and said, well, we're not going to change statute.
Right.
And so that's where that lands.
Yeah.
So, good.
The other thing about the calendars, I think 3 of the 4 did not list a potential commencement date. And so I don't know if you wanted to go back in there and just put in what the date for commencement would be proposed.
Oh, the number just isn't in
Yeah,
there?
there was no
Okay,
number.
okay.
So it maybe just got, I'm sure it's a simple thing to
Yeah.
go in. But
Yeah.
to me, I was kind of like, well, where would you put commencement?
Yeah, they're all proposed
I
as
have
the
kids
Sunday
graduating.
after Memorial Day.
Labor Day. Memorial. Yeah.
They all would be proposed as the Sunday after school gets out.
Right.
But we can go ahead and add that in there.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I appreciate more time to give people another chance to weigh in.
Yeah,
So,
I think
and if they
that-
choose not to, that's, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what we wanted to accomplish this year, was just a little bit slower process to gather some more insight, because we've had more calendar changes on the fly, for lack of a better word, in the last 2 years than I would normally like. So let's go a little slower and make sure what we adopt is what we want to do.
Yeah.
So, and that's my report for this evening.
All right. Any other questions or comments for Eric? Thank you. All right, moving on then to our report from Elizabeth.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate the chance to speak with you this evening. A couple different things we'd like to touch on regarding finances as well as enrollment. So now we're back in the swing of things, and we're back to taking our snapshots in time regarding enrollment for the 22-23 school year. So there's 2 reports in there. One, we lay out the entire year, and you can see per grade level where we're sitting with our actual student counts, and those are actual students that we're seeing at least one period throughout the day. And then if you look at that alongside our enrollment history report, I'd say September is lining up very well. We are pleasantly surprised right now. If you look at September of this year and September of last year, it's the exact same. So that is, again, encouraging for us to hopefully see that maintaining of our enrollment. For the 22-23 school year, we did project a slight decline. But again, that's where we're trying to estimate conservatively just to make sure that we do cover all of our expenditures based that our revenue really is driven by student enrollment. So we'll continue to watch that throughout the school year. As normal, we usually do start higher in the beginning of the school year. We'll see how that trends, and really kind of around that December, January timeline is where we'll start to stabilize. So we'll continue to watch that. And again, it's just one day in time. I looked at the report, I think, on a Monday, and Eric had looked at the report on a Wednesday. It wasn't that far off, but about 5 students was different than the count. So, we're definitely still seeing kind of influx and outflow of our students. So like I said, around that January, December time is really when we start to see that stabilize. Any questions with enrollment at all?
Well, I think it's interesting that we started the same this year as we did last year, because we ended this last year quite a bit lower than the previous year. So we've made up a lot of students over this, it seems like.
We have, and as Elizabeth mentioned, September is such a roller coaster. I think today it was 1,774 when I did it. So it just depends on as things settle out, and that's why everything is. A lot of things are based on October 1.
Yep.
They figure that's stabled out by that time. But you're right. We have definitely increased. Like we talked about at our work session, we have increased about 1% of that market share back within Waseca, which is exciting for us because we want to provide the best for our families.
Yeah.
And just to touch on enrollment just a little bit longer, we are currently still working through our audit process for the 21-22 school year. We will have our auditors on site in 2 weeks, and so we'll be tightening up all of our projections to actuals. In the last report that I did look at for our final student count, we were about 5 kiddos stronger than what we had anticipated. So again, as long as we can at least get close to where our anticipation was, and we're always going to take the over as a positive and a win. Just wanted to let you know that we really are trending for our last year where we had anticipated. So again, that is good news for the district, that we really are taking a really close look at what has our past trends been, what are our monthly trends been. These reports really do help us drive where we can anticipate our student count to end at the end of the year. So again, things are looking extremely positive for what we had projected for last year. And so next month I'll have an even tighter report for you. Once we're kind of done with these audit entries, that's why I don't have a financial report for you right now. It just looks a little, we're not comparing apples to apples when we're kind of in that time of booking receivables and payables. And so hopefully in October, for sure in November, you're going to be able to see now those comparisons budget-wise and expenditure-wise, and revenue-wise on where we're at from this point in time versus last year point in time. So those will be coming shortly. The next topic that I wanted to discuss does revolve around finances and speaks to an agenda item that will be coming up later. So I just want to briefly discuss kind of where we're looking at preliminarily for our levy. So tonight is the night that we do ask the school board to approve the maximum for our school levy. Our levy report was available to us September 8th. We did briefly discuss that with the Finance Committee. It came out the same day that we were meeting with the Finance Committee. So we had a lot of caveats and a lot of, well, I think. And that's really what September is all about with our levy reports. Usually there's probably a new one posted every single day. And we really use this entire month to make sure that all of the information that we provided to the state is coming out correctly, as well as it gives the state time to make sure all of the formulas that they have running into those calculations are correct and accurate. So from a Waseca public school standpoint, in looking at the report, everything that we have had to provide the state is coming out accurately. So I do feel confident with everything that we have had to provide for the levy system. And now we just really need to rely on the Department of Education as well as our county auditors to make sure all of the formulas are working correctly. So that's the main driver of why we asked the board to approve the maximum, just to make sure that everything is calculating correctly. And then in December is when we can approve that specific dollar amount. So it just gives us time to make sure that we have an accurate report and accurate information to make informed decisions. Caitlin, I don't know, are you able to bring up that slideshow I sent you? Perfect, thank you. So this is an extremely scaled back, maybe mini preview of what the truth in taxation presentation is going to look like. But I do want to share some preliminary numbers with you. Again, we're not approving specific, or we're not asking you to approve specific dollar amounts tonight. We will ask that the board approve the maximum, but I do want to let you know what that's looking like. So for page 23, just kind of as a reminder of what the levy cycle looks like, this means it's taxes collected in calendar year 23, and then it's revenue for school districts for the 23-24 school year. So for us, it's fiscal year 24. For our community, it's calendar year 23. So that's why we have the conversations now for taxes collected in calendar year 23. You want to go ahead and move to the next slide, please? So just information on all of the different things that can play into levy variations from year to year, our market values, class rate. So it just means the type of property, the values of property, right? Changes in our enrollment, just like our revenue budget for our state aid, enrollment does play into our local levy as well. So changes in our population definitely drive that. And then as our property values change, so whether they increase or decrease, that also changes how much comes from levy and how much comes from the state. So for some formulas, the revenue may be the exact same for Waseca Public Schools. It's just maybe more comes from the state and less comes from levy, or more comes from the levy and less comes from state, just based on our property values alone. Okay. So unfortunately, as our property values increase, which is a positive, more of our revenue may come from the levy than it does come from aid. Okay. And then obviously for specific projects or specific operating referendum, we can always go to the voters for additional approval above and beyond what is already calculated in our current levy. Okay. If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, that would be great. And I'm going to have to bring it up for me as well. That's really small in front of me. All right, so proposed pay of 23. Again, this is all just a proposal. This is preliminary. These are not final, okay? So as of the report dated September 20th of 2022, I think this is an extreme positive for our community. We are looking at a decrease of 2.34% for our levy, or $122,494 decrease over pay 22. So the overall preliminary levy is $5,121,908. And again, preliminary numbers, but again, just want to make sure that we're sharing kind of where we're at and what those reports are currently showing for us. If you want to go to the next slide, that'd be great. So there's going to be three components of our levy: the general fund, community service, and the debt fund. So our general fund levy overall, we're looking at a preliminary increase of just over $15,000. And some of the components driving that, we're going to see some increases and some decreases, and that's kind of netting out. So between operating capital, reemployment, safe schools, career and tech, we're looking at an increase of just shy of $180,000. The main driver of that is our capital facility bond that we had taken out, so basically borrowing from ourselves to pay for the roof at now the WIS, but the old junior high school, we had taken out $1 million bond. Again, it was borrowing from ourselves, but what was happening is about $140,000 was being decreased from our general fund levy and being added to our debt service levy. So you're going to actually see a decrease on the debt service, but an increase here because we're done paying for that now. Fiscal 23 was the last year that we had to pay for that, so that is now off of our debt. Other post-employment benefits, this is all just based on what our actual liability is. And so for this upcoming year, our actual liability, is going to decrease about $80,000. For long-term facility maintenance, again, looking at the decrease of about $132,000. $102,000 of that is the abatement project that we had added last year. Okay, so now we're seeing that come off. And then there, again, other formulas are playing into that, but the large driver of that decrease is the one-time abatement project that we had added for last year's pay 22. Local optional revenue, there's a preliminary increase of the $47,000. So even though we are projecting a slight decline in enrollment, our property values are coming into play here. So as our property values within Waseca County increase, a little bit more is going to be driven by levy and a little bit less is going to be driven by state aid. So that's where those equalizations come into play. So that's the general fund. If we want to go to the next slide, we'll talk about community service and the debt service fund. So for community service, we are looking at a preliminary decrease of over not quite $112,000. Again, this is very largely driven by actual expenditures. One unique thing with the levy is it's basically a 3-year look back period because you're projecting expenditures for a year ahead of you. We're not quite finished with reporting for current year that we're in. And then they're looking back at what actual expenditures have been reported. So fiscal 21, fiscal 22, sometimes they're even looking at fiscal 23, and then we're also projecting fiscal 24. So sometimes even it's a 4-year period that levies are kind of coming into play and calculating for formulas. So the community education portion really is based on school age care, actual expenditures. So we are able to levy some additional dollars for care for students that might need additional services. And so what had happened in the past is we had estimated a certain dollar amount. It was actually more than that. So we had some larger increases or larger basically catch-ups based on actual expenditures from prior years. Now we're kind of evening out of, okay, we really know what our program is going to be looking like, or our best estimate at this point. And trying to do the best that we can to estimate as accurately and closely as we can, so we're not going to hopefully see some larger swings. So last year, we had about a $100,000 increase because we had about $100,000 more in a prior year that we hadn't levied for. So unfortunately, those kind of, again, just take a couple of years to even out. Debt service, this is really driven by what our debt schedule is based on. So right now you'll see that decrease of $26,000. $140,000 is a decrease from what we talked about before, the capital facility bond. So we kind of switched over to general fund. And then there's some increases coming into play because that is how they wrap our debt. If you remember those conversations maybe from our facility meetings on how do we wrap our debt to try to make it as even as possible for our community members. And so Ellers is fantastic at looking at what is our current debt, what is coming off, how can we build more in so then we can kind of keep those payments as even as we possibly can. So we'll still see a slight decrease in that, but it really is just kind of ramping up some of our other debt because that $140,000 is now gone, if that makes sense. Okay. We can go to the last one. This is just a snapshot of history. I like to show this, and we do like a 20-year look when we actually have our truth in taxation, but you can kind of see what has happened over the years. And again, it really is driven by, how much the state allows districts to use and or access. It also depends on what we have we have a district decide to access. Some of those one-time projects do kind of cause those one-time increases. You can kind of see that came into play for pay 20 and pay 22. We had some abatement projects on there that kind of bumped it up, and then you'll see a decrease. And that's what's happening this year is right now, preliminarily, we are looking at that 2.34% decrease over prior year. If you look at the average, we're just shy of 2.7% increase over a 7-year average from year to year. just to try to give you a better idea, again, trying to take those one-time projects out, what's that true increase really to our community? Like I said, this is a very quick kind of snapshot of what we're looking at for preliminary levy. We will definitely dive into more of it when we have our Truth in Taxation presentation. Truth in Taxation will be held Thursday, December 15th, and that's going to be at 6 o'clock from our regular board meetings from 5:30 to 6 o'clock, just to make sure that we do point that out. There is a new supplemental requirement for districts this year. Many districts are going to have a harder time or more of a challenge meeting this new expectation. So when taxpayers receive their property tax statements, a new requirement is that a budget sheet report is supposed to come from all of the school districts reporting what their actual budget has been for the 21-22 school year. Well, most of us are not done with our audit at this point, and so the numbers that we would send to our community members would not be accurate and they would not be audited and final. So you will see this from a lot of different districts. The county has been working with the State Department, and they are all allowing us to basically say our information is not available yet. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to contact the district office. We will include our information. That way we are meeting the requirement of providing financial information, but if for some reason you do have a question with that, I just wanted to let you know that is a new requirement for all school districts. Many school districts are going to have a challenge meeting that requirement because we are not done with our audits at this point in time. Any questions?
Looks good.
It's good news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good explanation of everything. There's a lot that goes into that.
Well, and I know last year we all had some trepidation about about how the higher increase, but seeing the multi-year history, yes, and the explanation of these one-time projects, and that does make sense why you have some ups and downs. But it's nice to follow up a higher year with with hopefully a negative. So yeah, awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. So
Yeah, thank you.
no further questions, I assume. All right, we'll move on then to our committee and board member reports. Do you want to start us off, Katie?
I had just attended the superintendent eval meeting yesterday, and Eric went over most of it in his report today, so not a whole lot extra to add to that, actually.
Okay.
So no, everything's going good.
Okay, thank you. Adita.
I have the community ed advisory meeting, and summer went great. I mean, Paul was very excited, and we had so many activities during the summer. There was 2 kind of theaters for kids and for adults. They have art camps that when they were fully, fully attended. Then we had community garden that it went also well, chill reading camps, gymnastics. Registration for summer was up, and also JNS summer classes was full.
Awesome.
Currently for the preschool and post care, we have some issues with the staffing issues, little issues. That's why we have less classes, and we had to send a couple families, that they cannot come. But Paul is working to hire people, and as soon as they have more people, they will call the families back. I mean, he's very excited, and hopefully we will wait for the budget, but it may be good news for community ed that we will be in positive,
Good.
on the positive side.
That would be good.
Yeah. Then, did anybody attend DAC meeting? No? Okay. Eric was there. I was driving because I had to go to cities, but, presentation about the scorecards and everything. Brooke, she did a wonderful job, and I think she sent presentation. It was well done, and everybody was, it was great presentation. I really enjoyed to listen. I was not able to look because I was driving, but yeah, but it was very well done, and kudos to Brooke because she's doing always great job. Then third one was PGA and D committee, And again, we were talking about the surveys. They are sending surveys for kids from pre-K to 12 and also for staff. And they were talking about the CRIS, culturally responsive instructional strategies, you know, how they can make progress on those. Back to school subcommittees and personal development plans for this year. So, I mean, it was also very busy thing. And then we had facility committee, and I will not talk about it. I will let others to finish it. That's all what I had, I think.
Well, that's a
Right.
lot, but you were
Yeah.
busy this month. Thank you.
Yeah, it was busy 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah. Lindsay, what's going on at the high school?
Well, it's really busy, so I'll try to keep it as brief as I can, but there's a lot going on. So Saturday was the Waseca Marching Classic, and it was really awesome to have all different bands come in and visit Waseca. It was a really beautiful day also, so that was awesome. Tennis had a home match tonight. It's probably still going on, so after this is over, you can go check it out. Boys soccer was home tonight at 7, and I believe girls soccer was home. Was it home? Or was it? Okay, it was away. Okay. Football is home tomorrow. We also had a mock crash yesterday hosted by the Midwest Junior Board. It was a really, really cool experience. I had the opportunity of being in it, and it was terrifying, but it was a good experience for our students, and we are so thankful that we got to do it. This weekend, the band is at Rosemount and Irondale on Saturday, so wish them the best of luck. And our big news is that homecoming is next week, and so we have many events for the community and the students as well. So the kickoff for homecoming is on Sunday, September 25th. It'll be the Jaywalk. It'll start behind the high school and will follow the trail by the softball fields to Loon Lake Park, and you'll circle back. You'll get to meet our homecoming court and our cheerleaders and football team. The registration starts at 10:30 a.m. and the walk starts at 11. There's a recommended donation of $5 a person and $20 per family, and this will be a fundraiser to help the student council pay for some events that we will hold throughout the year. Wednesday night is our first annual beanbag tournament for our high school students. We're really excited to do that under the lights. Thursday will be our coordination at 7:30 p.m. and the dance for the high school students will follow directly afterwards. And then Friday is our homecoming parade and football game. The choir will be selling burgers and hot dogs before the game and during halftime, so it's a change from the barbecue. There are no tickets, you'll just buy it at the game. And all home events next week will be free to our high school students, so we thank our school for that. And also, Blue Jay alumni are being invited to the parade and game. 10, 25, and 50-year reunions will be celebrating with us. So we're very excited. A lot going on.
Yes, there is. Thank you. That was a good summary of everything that's going on. So, thank you. Dave.
I don't know how I follow all this.
I know.
I attended the Personnel Committee meeting, Policy Committee meeting, District Accountability Advisory Committee meeting, and we just had the Facilities meeting. I was just going to mention a few things about some of the policies that we're looking at tonight. Policy 602, and you correct me if I'm includes e-learning days now, which of course are online instruction due to inclement weather, and we could have up to 5 of those. Policy 603 talks about curriculum development and about having a district committee to work on that, as well as site-based teams to also work on curriculum development. Policy number 604 talks about having in place a procedure for parental curriculum review, should they want to do it. Policy 605 sets up alternative educational services for students in our district who may need or choose to have them. A lot of really good, interesting information. And again, we just had a facilities committee meeting, and Colin Green went through, I'm going to guess, a good share of the projects that were done here last summer, and it's kind of unbelievable the amount of projects, large and small, that got done in June, July, and August. I'm just going to mention a few, and I'm sure Scott can mention some more. A big project was tuck pointing here at the central building, as well as some asbestos abatement out at the high school, LED lighting in the boys' locker room, the athletic shed that was built and moved out to the football field, work that's going to be done on field number 2, baseball field, sidewalk work. They're going to be putting more drinking fountains in out at the high school. At the intermediate school, we finally got the drainage problem in the south parking lot hopefully fixed. Cement work done out there. And that's just, I think, a fraction of all the things that got done. So thanks to Colin and Elizabeth, who pays the bill, and all the custodians and workers this summer for all that they got done.
Awesome. Thank you. Scott.
All righty. So I was also at the personnel meeting, and that was mostly talking about staffing and how well we actually did for this fall. I also did the finance, which a lot of that discussion was built around the levy and looking at what our levy may be, and that it was looking like a downward trend. And then today's facility meeting, Colin talked a lot about some tuck pointing. The other tuck pointing that was done is over the gym at Hartley, which was really big. They've been looking at that for a long time, and it actually came in way under budget, which was nice to see. And then there is a shout out to, as part of that committee, was the CJ Masonry did some sidewalk work at Hartley, and incorporated in that is the flagpole that is not being used out there. They were able to move that to the field out at the high school, and they did not charge us. That was a pro bono that they did, and thank you very much for that. We appreciate it. And then just communications on things that are coming up. So.
Awesome. Well, I oddly did not have any school board committee meetings this month. I would have had the evaluation committee, and I couldn't go yesterday. But I am doing the advocacy tour tomorrow for MSBA, and it does make me think it's probably time to reconvene the legislative committee here pretty soon. But I have been busy in other committees that aren't part of the school district, and I know that's one of our our school board goals, so I did just want to share a couple of those things, how when I attend some of these things, it makes me think of also my job on the school board. So I'm on the Heritage Preservation Commission for the city, and so I went to their annual Preserve Minnesota conference up in Duluth, and I went on some tours, and a lot of renovation work up in Duluth involves taking historic buildings and renovating them into housing. And it made me think of our housing shortage here in Waseca, and how can we use buildings we already have. And I don't have an answer to that, but it does make me think of other communities are doing that. And also thinking of the Marching Band Classic, I met someone from up in the city somewhere. She's like, Waseca, the only thing I know about that is the Marching Classic. And I went there, 25 years ago when she was in marching band. But it's just a reminder too, and wherever we are, we love to talk about where we're from and to highlight the really cool programs. But that's a great community-wide, statewide event that people remember. So that was cool. And then on my job on the PTO board for the junior senior high school, I've been getting more involved with helping to bridge that communication between the school and parents. And so, and that also I think goes into our general goal of improving communication and community engagement as a school board. So that's where I've been spending my time this month. It just wasn't in school board committees. So anyway. All right, moving on then to recognitions and positive board feedback. Do you want to start us off again?
I'd just like to say I love the emails from Joe with the weekly updates for the activities, because you get scores, you know who we're playing, and it's just more interactive. You kind of feel like you're involved a little bit.
When you can
more.
kind of plan your week a little bit too, like you can say, oh, I can make that one.
Yep.
Or yeah, I told him that
Exactly.
the other day too. I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I just would like to say, like last weekend, Saturday, the organization and everybody was involved, police and everything, volunteers, it just went so seamless. And I know that behind the scenes there are tons of people who are working there, and just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, mine is the same. Just all two who contributed to the Waseca Marching Classic, specifically Edna Burns and Jack and Mary Williams for all their hard work. I would also like to thank all the first responders in Waseca County and everywhere, I guess, but also specifically those who helped us with the mock crash yesterday. We thank them for all their hard work. And also to Miss Nelson for all of her hard work leading up to homecoming week. It's not an easy job getting a bunch of high school kids to commit to jobs, but she's doing an awesome job, and we are so appreciative of all of her work.
Thank you.
I would like to thank Anna Pollock because I found out recently that she has started she just about got started a nonprofit to kind of a theater booster nonprofit like we have for sports and we have for the band. Booster organizations. She's getting one going for theater. So I thought, hey, it's about time, and tell her thank you for that.
Awesome.
All right, so my thunder's kind of been stolen, but I was gonna definitely shout out to Joe Hedevar and that whole, the way they do all them updates. And I'm really hoping to see all of like the concerts and all that on there too, eventually.
That's a good idea.
So that, yeah, you can, especially if they're far enough out that you can plan for them. Sometimes I don't find out until the day of. So, and then the homecoming week, all the activities that you guys have planned, and starting with Sunday, I think that's the community can come out and really have fun with that. So.
And I assume the community can come out and watch the Beanbag tournament too, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
I will double check with that, but my
'Cause
guess
I think
would
I'm
be
gonna
yes.
go.
It'll be
At least
pretty
to-
intense.
At least to watch for sure.
Yeah, mine, I just wanted to recognize our relationship with our city police and having a school resource officer in our building. Days like yesterday, when I'm sure it was very tense, a tense day across districts with unfortunate, whatever the swatting thing is. But I appreciate that we already have plans in place and we're already doing everything we should do. But I also think having our school resource officer in the building and in the district is really helpful. And I know we have a new officer this year, and I forget what her last name is.
Greta Lucan.
Thank you. But I really appreciate that relationship and that an officer is willing to serve in that position. So, all right. Well, if there's enough recognitions and stuff, move on then to the fun part of the evening, which is the action items. Or not fun part of the evening. All right. Who will start us off with a motion for item A?
I'll make a motion to accept the received gifts and donations.
I'll second that.
All right. We have a first and a second. Any discussion?
No, thank you. Very generous.
Very generous.
Yeah, the new Blue Jay sign on over in the U Drive looks cool, so.
Yeah.
All right, if there no further discussion, I will call for a vote, and this is a roll call, so Caitlin, could you please read the roll?
Dave Dunn,
Yes.
Scott Demmel,
Yes.
Katie Youngberg,
Yes.
Adita Mansfield,
Yes.
Julie Anderson.
Yes. All right, motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion for item B?
I'll make a motion that we approve of the interim, or the agreement with Mandy Noner, who's the interim Waseca Area Learning Center Coordinator.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion? All right, hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. And I just want to say thank you to Mandy also for stepping in at the last minute, and I think has gotten off to a good start to the school year. So, all right, can I get a motion for item C?
I make a motion to approve food service contract with Grace Garden Childcare.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion for item D?
I'll I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of service agreement with Adara Home Health, Inc.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion for item E?
I'll make a motion that we approve purchase of service agreement with Owatonna Public Schools.
Second.
Yeah, and I believe that's for deaf and hard of hearing.
Yep,
Right.
for deaf and hard of
Students.
hearing
Okay.
services, yes. We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion for item F?
I make a motion to approve revised 2022-2023 food service prices.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion?
I just would point
Yep.
out for anybody watching at home, this is for next summer's adult rate. So nothing's changing for the current school year for students or staff.
Yeah, and that was something that we were kind of, there was a minimum meal price and we had to
Correct.
change the price because of that, yep. But we'll still have the Kids Eat Free program next summer, I'm assuming, so.
Yeah, I hope so.
Hopefully, yeah. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion for item G?
I'll make a motion to approve certified maximum payable to 2023 levy.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? I think Elizabeth was pretty thorough, so that, that makes it easy. If there's no further discussion, I will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion for item H? Oh, I'm sorry, we're just going to acknowledge item H. We're acknowledging the 2022-2023 Combined General Business and Purchasing Procedure Handbook, which is a super fun read. No, I'm serious, no. All right, can I get a motion for item I?
I make a motion to approve disposal of World Language Department textbooks.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion for item J?
I'll make a motion that we approve the 22-23 Family Service Coordinator Agreement.
Second.
First and a second. Any
Is-
discussion?
Can I ask a question? Is that at Hartley and Wiss?
Hartley and Wiss, yes.
Hartley and Wiss. Okay.
I really appreciate that we continue to have this cooperation, so.
And we're
it's-
fortunate to have them because some districts remain unfilled.
Yep.
So we're fortunate.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Can I get a motion for item K?
I'll make a motion that we approve the reviewed policies.
Second.
We have a first and a second, and policies that were reviewed were 601, 602, 606, 613, 614, 615, and 617. These had very minor changes or no changes at all, and this is their first and only reading. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. And then for item L, we are going to acknowledge the first reading of revised policies. These are policies 603, 604, and 605. And Dave, thank you for kind of giving some insight into those earlier. So these were revised at the policy committee meeting, and they had some more major changes, and so it requires 2 readings for us to apply.
And I could point out there's the changes for the board and the community's reference. In 603 and 604, you will see a site team paragraph in 603. And in 604, you will see a parental process for reviewing curriculum. Those are both in response to legislative changes and then MSBA recommendations. So we've always had the opportunity for parents to review our curriculum, but per the current legislation, and that sounds perfectly acceptable to us, is we're going to put once the policy is adopted, we'll put together an official procedure that we'll have for that process, which is anytime, just give us a call and we'll have a chance to share things with you. There's no concerns there, but it's now official in writing. And then in 605, you'll notice a third paragraph that just says that any student age 17 who's looking at potentially dropping out needs to have a meeting with us before they can drop out, so that we can try to just find an alternate plan before they make that choice, which again is an MSBA recommendation as we have going on. So they're not necessarily functional changes, but there's certainly enough text added to those policies that it merits 2 readings.
And what was the current policy for those kids that decided to drop off? They are 17.
If they drop out, they drop out.
Wow.
Now, procedurally, we have always asked for a meeting. We always try to find, it doesn't change our process really. It just
now it's official.
puts in policy that that's something that if it gets 1 or 2 extra kids to the table to talk about it before they go, then it's successful.
Especially since we do have options. I mean,
We do have options,
Yeah.
and so I don't want to be too we certainly didn't just say, okay, have a great day, but at the same time, now it's more official, so, yeah.
I didn't realize that was new, but when I was reading that, I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So, or I'm glad that that's in policy.
And I don't know that legally you can actually enforce that a whole lot, because if a student does choose to drop out, they have that legal right. But we want to enforce every opportunity we can to get those kids across the finish line.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I had a couple of questions, but does anyone else have questions about policy? Okay. These are super minor, but on 603, is the screening for dyslexia, is that new stuff, or has that been there?
That has been there now for probably 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know it's newer in,
Yeah.
or it's a newer effort in schools.
Yeah,
and so I was
forgive
just
me,
curious.
I'm not recalling if it was the last session or the session before.
Okay.
It was during pandemic.
Okay. And then in 604, I know this part isn't new, but the requirements about in like middle school and elementary school, you have to offer 3 but require 2. Of those things, like how are we meeting that requirement? Just out of curiosity. Sorry.
Remind me where you're referring to here.
So under section 2, part C.
Oh, the music, theater, and visual arts.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are primarily taken up in our art, our specialists, art, music, and Phy Ed.
Okay. So like the dance part would be part of Phy Ed kind
Correct.
of a thing? Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was just curious, because obviously I know we have music, I know we have art, but I was just wondering where the third one was coming in. But then also Adita was talking about the theater programs through community ed, so that's kind of another, I mean, it's not official, but it's another way to offer those kinds of things. So.
Right, yeah.
Awesome.
I'm not sure that we teach achy breaky heart anymore, but at the same time, I know we're doing some of those things in our Phy Ed classes. Yeah.
Thank you for, just when I was reading through them, I just had questions, so nothing major. That brings us to the end of our action items. So awesome. So 6:28, we're doing good. Upcoming items and reminders. Next week is homecoming, lots of fun stuff. So I personally just added the week at a glance for homecoming on the high school website, so you can go and find that. And I also posted it on the PTO Facebook page and stuff, so that was helpful. Our next work session is Thursday, October 6th. Our next regular meeting is Thursday, October 27th, and make note that that is the week after MEA. So MEA, have fun, don't come to the boardroom. So any other things to mention? Cool. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn? Or I'll make a motion to adjourn. You want to?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all.